Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you're joining us from. Welcome back, or if you're a new sub, thanks for checking out my channel. At the end, yeah, please subscribe, like the video if it's any good. It means a lot to me. Helps the channel grow. Anyway, so you probably guessed what the video is about, going by the title of the video. So I'm actually on my way back down towards into the Surrey Hills to get some the work done on the bike in regards to what happened last weekend. So no doubt that's going to cost me a small fortune, but it needs to get done, so I need to get it done ASAP. Basically, my Zero S got stolen. But hang on a minute, Rob, you're on your Zero S. How's that work? Let me explain. So, it got stolen. I was at the O2 Arena in London, not too far from me. I think the charge left on the bike was about 45%. I didn't need too much, you know. It literally is 5 minutes down the road, 5 minutes back. So that was going to do me nicely. Which I think you'll hear later in the story helped my cause a lot, or the outcome at least. So, got to the O2 Arena at about 9:30 a.m. We had a stag do the night before, or kind of all over London, Victoria, all that area. And the next day the plan was everyone meet up, and then we had a few things to do on the Saturday morning for the stag. Kind of like the American golf that's around there. There was some kind of pub football thing. I forget what it's called. It's in the O2. Grab some food and just catch up on the night before with everyone, you know. The stag was awesome. The stag do was awesome. It was good meeting, seeing a few of my mates again, and then mates of mates and all that sort of stuff. So that was cool. What wasn't cool was my bike getting stolen, obviously. But we got it back. Thanks to God. Thank you, God, we got it back. So yeah, got to the O2. If you know the O2, there's quite a few car parks. I think 4 or 5 car parks that are numbered up. So I parked in, I think it was car park 2, which is the closest one you can get to the actual O2 itself. It's literally that car park. You cross their little internal road system and you're staring at the O2 and Costa and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, you know, let me try and get as close as possible, because some of them car parks, they're a little bit suspicious in the way that they're designed, and no one really walks around them unless they're going to or from the car. It's perfect kind of theft territory, and a lot of cars and motorbikes get stolen or broken into there. So I was like, let me play it sensible. Where I parked, there's loads of people walking around. You've got the River Thames literally within eye shot, and families and kids running around there and all that sort of stuff. So it looked, you know, if you're going to park at the O2, it seemed like the safest place to park. Plus, motorbike parking is free. So I drive in, see where all the motorbikes are parked, and I'm like, okay, this seems pretty cool. None of the bikes. There was about 6-7 bikes already there. Some Yamahas, some Kawasaki's, and some mopeds, and some other things. Some quite expensive bikes, so I thought, okay, this looks safe. So I parked my bike up, put my D-lock on, and steering lock obviously engaged, and all that sort of stuff. Probably should have put, in hindsight, a bit more security on it, but it's one of them things, isn't it? It's always in hindsight. And they always get you, you know, I very rarely park my bike anywhere apart from work and home. So this is one of the few times that I'm like, okay, let's go out. I'll take the bike down there, 10 minutes down the road, boom, boom, boom. Lovely sunny day. Perfect. Anyway, I park up, grab a coffee, head into the O2 to meet the rest of the guys. As soon as we get to our little like booth in this kind of football restaurant thing where you kick this ball at the screen and score points and all that sort of stuff. I forget what it's called. I'll put it on the screen. It's good fun, apparently. I never got to play. By the time I sorted everything out, it had finished, but it looked like good fun. Um, anyway, I get to the restaurant, or this place. Soon as we get there, we get to our booth, my phone starts going, and it's, nothing. I'm just thinking text message, email, or whatever. I look, and it's a notification from Monimoto, which is what I use as the tracker. Pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right. Monimoto. Sounds right. And it's basically, if you don't know, it's a tracker that you fit on your motorbike, or you can put it in your car. They're primarily designed for motorbikes, I believe. You hide it on your bike, and you have the tracker, and you have the key fob. And what happens is it goes into sleep mode to preserve battery life. The battery on these things lasts an insane amount of time. Coming up to a year, maybe more. And basically what happens is when the bike moves, it has like a gyroscopic sensor in this tracker. As soon as it moves, the bike moves, it wakes up and it goes, right, where's my key fob that I need to pair with? The key fob's already paired, and it looks for that key fob it's paired with. If it doesn't see that, it goes, right, start sending notifications to the app that I'm assigned to, linked to, and the account. And then it starts giving you notifications. Hey, I'm moving. I don't see the key fob. That generally the key fob is you keep on yourself or in your jacket. So the idea is that when you get on the motorbike and the Monimoto tracker wakes up, it sees the key fob within something like 4 or 5 meters, or I think you can adjust it. And then it goes, okay, I see the key fob, I'm going back to sleep. And it saves battery power. And I think it checks in every so often when it feels movement. Sees the key fob, back to sleep, no issue. When it doesn't see the key fob, that's when it starts notifying your app. And what it does, which is really good, is it doesn't drop call you. If the motorbike moves and it doesn't see the key fob, it calls your mobile phone. Because you're going to miss a notification sometimes, right? Because of all the noise, but you generally don't miss a phone call. Because your phone obviously starts ringing, the ringtone and all that sort of stuff. So you get a phone call, and you save it in your phone as Monimoto tracker or whatever. So that's what happened. I got a phone call, and I'm like, huh? What the hell is going on? Anyway, it starts moving. It leaves the O2. I run down to where I left my bike, and it's not there. I was kind of praying that, maybe someone just knocked it, which you do get sometimes. When they're getting on and off their bike, some people park so close to you that they end up knocking into your bike, and then it throws a bit of a wobbly for a minute and you're all good. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case this time. It had been stolen. So I called 999. That put me through to the Met Police, because I'm in London at this point. And to be fair to the Met, at this point they called me back, I think within about 10 minutes. From a squad car with the blue lights going. It was an officer, in the car, and he basically just said, look, we've been told your motorbike's been stolen and that you've got a tracker. Can you give me the last known location? So you go through the whole palaver of, telling them, look, this is where it is. It's moving east towards, I don't know, Erith or whatever it was at this time from the O2 is it the A2? Anyway, they track it for about 35-40 minutes, roughly about that sort of time, I think it was. And obviously, these guys know what they're doing, right? The thieves. And although the tracker is pretty accurate, and I think it checks in when you go into lost mode pretty quickly, there was just too much of a delay, I think it was. And not just that, I don't even think it was the delay. I think it was the thieves on the bike could hear the police coming, and they would just go off-road. They'd go off into heaths, into forests around Kent, and it was just the police trying to catch up with them. Just wasn't happening. Anyway, about 35-40 minutes into this, they pull into an alleyway, and then they go into one of the properties and into a garage, from what I can see. And I say to the police, when they finally catch up at the address, look, they've pulled into this alleyway. It looks like, from what I could see, they went into this particular house. And where the little blip went through the fence, there's a gate there. So I said, they've gone in there, and when I go on Street View, it looks like they've got a shipping container or some sort of garage lockup. So the police are like, look, we're looking over the fence, we can see what you're talking about, but we can't go in there without a warrant. We haven't got enough evidence. So I'm in shock at this point. You've tracked them down. I'm thinking I'm never going to see the bike again. You're literally within meters of my bike, and there's nothing you can do. You haven't got enough evidence. Like the live tracking data isn't enough to say, okay, we're coming in the property. So that annoyed me, to put it politely. Anyway, after about 10 minutes of them flapping around, and I'd seen the bike moving around the property as well. Like the police would go past the property, the bike would nip back out of that property onto the road. It looked like it was dodging around cars. Remember, this is an electric bike, motorbike, right? If you get on the pavement and you duck down, you can drive behind the cars. The police will never see you if you go slowly enough. You know, because in their mind, and I kept saying to them, look, it's an electric bike, it's quiet. You're not going to hear what you're thinking you're going to hear, like the engine revving and all this sort of stuff. But I just don't think they got comprehended at how quiet it was. Or is, I should say. Anyway, they gave up. They said, look, we're out of our jurisdiction now. We've come too far out of central London. When it starts moving again, you need to call back. Kent police need to now take this over and investigate the issue. So I was just in shock. I was like, they're giving up. They're that close to my bike, and they're just going to give up. Anyway, so that call ended. I kind of gave up. I was like, I'm never seeing this bike again. That is in the shed. They're ripping it apart. They're either taking the tracker out, or they're stripping the bike down for parts, you know. So I tried to get on with my day. And remember, I'm at my one of my mate's stag do's. So I'm trying to get back into the frame of mind of, do you know what, it's done. I can't do anything about it. Let's just enjoy the day as much as I can. So I was kind of like, that chapter is done. Just forget about it, do insurance and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, about 2 hours later, it starts pinging again. It's on the move. I tell a lie, I had to turn my phone off. I had like 13% battery left by this point, by about 5 o'clock. And I needed some juice to be able to get a cab home. And the bike hadn't checked in at this point. This was at like before 5. So I turned my phone off and was like, let's just get on with my day. Anyway, I turned my phone back on in the afternoon, and it starts showing me previous pings from like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock is about 5:30, I think, when I turn my phone on to book the cab. And I'm like, bloody hell, the bike is still moving. They haven't stripped it down. There's still hope. Let's just get round here. Yeah, where was I? So I'm like, yeah, bloody hell, they haven't stripped the bike down. There is still a glimmer of hope of salvaging something of a bike at the end of this. And I'm still at this point wondering what condition it's in, because it's been going across fields and heaths and trying to outrun the police. I'm like, they've probably messed the bike up 100%. Anyway, I checked the GPS data, and for the last two and a half hours, it hasn't moved. It's been sitting now at another address down in Gravesend. So I'm like, at this point, right, I need to go down there. I've lost faith in the police doing anything. And also by this point, I've called Kent Police numerous times. I've updated them, said this is what's going on. The bike is still in one piece. It's moved again. Can we get someone down there? And they just tell me it's been allocated. Basically it's in a queue. Anyway, I left it like another hour or so, and I get home and I'm like, this is ridiculous. If I don't do something about this, I'm never seeing this bike again. So I jump in a car with my brother-in-law, and I'm like, let's just go down there and stake it out. So we sit there for a bit, and the GPS gets more and more accurate. Or it did do previous to me even getting there, to be fair. It homed right in on a particular garage unit. So I'm like, right, how can I know 100% which garage unit it's in? I'm in the mindset of collecting as much evidence for police as possible. So there was a wedding going on, and a lot of cars were going down this road and doing a U-turn and turning around and finding somewhere to park. So I was like, right, that's going to work to my benefit, because I didn't want to, raise suspicion. So I reversed my car to the garages, jumped out, got my phone, pretended I was doing something in the boot, and held my phone very close to a particular garage that I thought it was in. And I opened the motorbike app, the Zero app, and you've got to be very close to the motorbike to connect to it. To configure like the top speeds and e-braking and all this sort of stuff to kind of configure the bike. Anyway, lo and behold, it connected. And I was like, oh my God, it is in this garage unit. I went into the Monimoto app, and that does the same thing. You've got to be very close to it to physically connect to the unit to configure it. And it did that as well. So now I know my bike and my tracker is still in that garage, presumably still in the motorbike, and it's still working. So I got back in the car and just drove to the end of the road and just kept watching the property to see who comes out. And must have been about 25 minutes later, 3 lads got out and jumped in a cab and basically left. At that point, I'm thinking that all of them probably have left the house. So I was like, okay, these neighbours, I feel like they're going to want to know what's going on. Because if I lived in a property that close to people doing kind of organised crime, you'd want to know. Anyway, the neighbours, I cut a long story short, the neighbours were brilliant. Everyone came out. We had one Gujarati woman that was feeding us, giving us masala chai, the works, right? She wouldn't take no for an answer. So we're getting fed and watered. She even let us use her bathroom. I was like, I can't believe how nice people are doing and understanding. At first, people were like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But what happened, one of the neighbours I went to, we got CCTV footage from people's like ring doorbells from a few neighbours, right? And that showed the same lads we saw get into the car on my bike and putting it in a particular garage unit. So now we knew the people we saw that day are the same people on the CCTV footage. So we started showing that to the neighbours and telling them, look, this is what's going on. So most of them all quickly came around and were like, yeah, you need to get your bike back and stuff like that. Anyway, we waited for the police till this is now about 6:30. We waited till about midnight. Called the police multiple times. We saw people coming that looked like they were possibly with that gang, coming round, acting a bit suspicious on a dead end road. This isn't a busy road. This is like a dead end road. They were coming down on phones, kind of sitting there staring and talking to someone on the phone. So we were like, they're trying to suss out what's going on. They're going to be coming back. So, we called the police again and said, like, look, what's going on? Can someone get down here? We've collected all evidence. I've got everything to prove that my bike is in that garage and where the people live, which house they live in. Someone needs to get down here. They didn't want to know. They were basically, to cut a long story short in this little section, was, unless you're getting attacked and stabbed, don't call us. We're busy. Which I was just in shock. I'm like, I get there's serious crime going on, but that just shows you how massively underfunded especially the Kent police, and I'm sure many other boroughs are, that you have to go and collect all your own evidence because they haven't got time. They are not going to see this as a priority, right? They want to go after like the big drug dealers. In fact, no, they don't. They want to go after the people that go 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. They want to go after the people that have maybe done their MOT 2 days late and are still riding, or missed their bloody car insurance by a day. Just the easy stuff, easy pickings. That's what it just feels like. Because I've spoken to a lot of people over the years, and they've always said this to me, and I've always really ignored it. That the police just, I don't want to think it's their attitude. I want to think that it's they're understaffed and they have to prioritise, and that unfortunately they're never going to say that out loud to you. But the fact is that my case just wasn't crucial enough for what they were doing. But it doesn't feel like that when you're on the end of the, you're on the end of you're on the receiving end, is what I was trying to say. Anyway, back to the story. We waited. By this point, it's midnight, and I remember this started at like 10:30 in the morning on the same day. Pardon me. So, yeah, we got to midnight, and without going into too much detail, we got my bike back. Someone must have opened the garage, shall we say. Maybe someone was still in the house and they saw what was going on, and they decided to open the garage and be a good Samaritan. Let's just say that. So we got my bike back. That wasn't really the end of the story. I mean, we found that the ignition, had been stripped out. They must have smashed it out, because I wondered, how on earth have you hot wired an electric bike? You know, like your traditional bike, like you see in the movies. I just presume you get a couple of cables and you can hot wire it, you spark them together and you get an ignition. I didn't think that was possible on an electric bike, because you're not sparking. You need that constant, right? You need that new wired connection. I thought you'd electrocute yourself or something stupid. Anyway, apparently it looks, well, not apparently, it is very easy. You just smash the lock out, and underneath the ignition lock is a bit of plastic. You just flick over like a light switch, and then you're done. Which I am astonished in 2024 that is as secure as it gets. Maybe there are newer versions and better security, and this bike just has, a poor design on it as a kind of first run. Maybe their newer stuff is a lot better, but I was astonished at that. That's all they'd done, really. They'd done that. They cut my disc lock off, and then they put their foot on the left steering wheel. Yeah, snapped it. So this wind mirror is a bit busted, the left one. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot more worry going through my head when I retrieved it. The battery percentage read 0, and the engine management light was on. But that was literally, it turned out, just because they had drained they'd run it down to 0 at like extreme speeds, so the battery gets a bit confused because it's not getting the regular discharge that it would expect. The kind of, if you rode it sensibly, then the discharge would be, gradual across all battery cells. But I think what had happened is where they rode it like a bloody maniacs, obviously through the forests and stuff, outrunning the cops, it just got itself into a bit of a fluster. Anyway, the 0%, I managed to get about halfway home. Luckily I had family following me in cars. Got halfway home, and then the battery completely died on me, and then we had to wait. This was at like 1. We had to wait till about 4:30 in the morning for the recovery company to come out, and that's a whole other story. We had to organise our own thing, because the AA are just useless at that time in the morning, and the third party companies, we had to ring around, barter a third party company, ring the AA and say, would you do this third party company at this price? And it just went backwards and forwards, because every time they'd say, oh, we'll be there in an hour would pass, and then they'd be like, oh, we'll be there in the next hour and the next hour, and that went on for God knows. Well, it went on from about midnight to about 4:30 in the morning. So that was the last thing you wanted after your bike getting stolen. You just want to get home and just digest everything, and we couldn't do that. I had to sit on the side of the road for bloody 4 hours or whatever it was. But eventually we got home, and I tried to do, like, the saddle had been ripped off, and it looked like possibly they'd done something with the wiring. I don't think they did. They were trying to get to the tracker. And luckily for me, they couldn't get the seat off. They didn't have the right tools. So they'd ripped the seat off with their hands at the front, but the back would not come off because it's like a latch. You have to kind of undo the bolt and then shimmy it off. And because of that, because they couldn't get it off, they couldn't get to the tracker. So that saved my bacon, that did. That is my story of how Kent police are bloody useless, to put it bluntly, and that I had to recover the bike myself. And that's where we're off to today, to get this bike repaired. Funnily enough, I'd booked in the MOT. That runs out on Tuesday. I was meant to be getting the MOT done first, and then, because the repairs were booked for this afternoon, and then it suddenly dawned on me that, wait, it's probably going to fail its MOT in its current state. So let me get that moved. So I'm doing that, I think, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow now. So now I'm on the way down to Magnet Moto, down towards Surrey Hills way, down near Box Hill, not too far from Rikers Cafe, if you know where that is. It's just north of that. I forget the town it's in. I'll put it on the screen. But they've looked after me in the past, and hopefully they can do the same today. They had to order up some parts, but that's where we're at. So getting the lock, bolt and steering lock all refitted. And hopefully they don't find too much else wrong with it. There's one other thing. Originally I was taking it back down there anyway for them to look at the front brakes. Seem a bit squishy. It's not losing any fluid, but it's it just doesn't feel right, so they're going to check that out for me and see what's going on. But yeah, that's my story. How to get your stolen bike back. I've read quite a few stories of people doing similar things, and unfortunately having to do the same thing, and because the police just don't want to know. And unfortunately that was my experience. Now, ironically, it was the general elections today, and Labour just won. Let's see if things start to change. Hopefully, recruitment in the police improves and they can actually be relied on to do a decent enough job. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, guys, thank you again for joining me on this little journey today, this little story on bike theft recovery. As always, thank you, and yeah, please do like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. I'm quite new and we're growing this. Going to be uploading mainly, like I always say, kind of motorbike content, but there'll be some random other videos as well I'll put up. So thanks again, and as always, have a beautiful day. Bye.